There's some of them here in the audience, you can tell. The Dublin Gaelic football team of the mid-70s. And tonight we have invited them to our studio to have an easy sort of a chat about their heyday and also to find out about what they've been doing in the business world since, because coincidentally, or is it indeed a coincidence, they have nearly all been remarkably successful in their chosen occupations, from transplant surgeons to budding executives to stockbrokers, engineers, and many more occupations beside. So we're going to have a little chat with them later on, but of course it's not a sports show, it can't be all chat, there'll be lots of music as well. And we found in putting this show together that there was a queue of Irish musicians lining up who wanted to be on the show because of their fondness for this team. First among them, the Fury Brothers, who are very shortly going to sing the national anthem, you might say. But first, take a look at this.
This is Paddy Cullen now with the kick out for Dublin. Tony Hanaho switching the Dublin team. We'll tell you about it in a moment. Anton O'Toole, Ger Power after him. That's Tommy Drum who got it up there. David Hickey, Bobby Doyle, David Hickey. Still David Hickey on the 14-yard line across in front of the goal. It's a goal!
In Dublin.
Go back to their seat. Let's take a look now at some of the real action.
Into the center to Liam Salmon. Liam Salmon trying to take a shot, and the referee has called for the foul, and it is a penalty. A penalty for Galway. Michael Rooney was down injured there from a swinging elbow a minute ago, and he is all right. There is a penalty now for Galway, and Paddy Cullen, heaven help him, in there in the goal, and Liam Salmon, who has never missed a penalty, going to take it. Here it comes. And he saved it! He saved it! Oh, Paddy Cullen! Paddy Cullen has saved it! The Dublin men standing waiting for that one, and it was Bernard Brogan to David Hickey to Brian Mullins. Out comes Jimmy Deenahan. John McCarthy. The referee has blown his whistle, and it is a penalty for Dublin. Here's Jimmy now. It's a goal! Three to Dublin. The red glove Kevin Moran to take it. To Anton O'Toole. Ger Power tries to save him, but Anton goes through him. This is Brian Mullins, and it's another goal! Another goal for Dublin! Brian Mullins, the scorer! Oh, intended pass there that went very much astray, and Brian Mullins gets it. Tom McCree's getting back to it. You can see the damage that the rain has done. These players skidding all over the place. Jimmy Keaveney, a goal! Oh, what a goal! What a goal by Jimmy Keaveney from an almost impossible angle. About a minute and a half gone on the game. This is Tommy Drum. This is Bernard Brogan. And that's Bobby Doyle. Still Bobby Doyle. And that's a goal by Bobby Doyle. Paddy Cullen, hands on hips. Well, Paddy, the two Paddies. Number 6, that's the man to watch. And a great save by Paddy Cullen. A great save by Paddy Cullen. And what a crowning much for them. There's the shot, and there is the save.
I want to ask you both now, but starting with you, Paddy, why was the team so successful?
Probably because I was the goalkeeper, I would imagine.
Listen, there's a fella in Kerry by the name of Mike, and he taught you a few lessons, so don't get too smart.
Great friend of mine.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it.
I suppose we were successful because we realised after 73, having been beaten in Navan by Louth in a replay, and Kevin Heffernan stood up on the seat in the dressing room and said, you know, within the next 3 years we're going to have a successful team. And when he said that, you were inclined to believe him. So it spilled over then. We were beaten in the following year, the spring of 74, by Kildare in a league final. That was Division 2. And that was really the dregs. I think we made up our minds then that we were going to do something about it, and we just all got in together and just
So
did it.
determination, you're saying, was part of it there?
Yeah, I think with the lads coming in, with you know, Donald Colfer, Larkin Redmond and Kevin coming in, they designed a fitness program for us, which we needed badly, and designed a pattern of play that suited the team, and that was how we were successful.
What's your view, Gay, on it?
Yeah, well, Paddy says because he was a goalkeeper, but it was the protection he got, you see. We minded him like a baby. He was 6'3", but I mean,
baby.
He really needed minding. He was a very delicate chap, you know, we had to look after him. But for me, it all started really I'd lost my place on the team at the beginning of 74. And it started for me in the quarter-final against Offaly. I remember particularly that day, I don't think I've ever got a buzz before or after that match. When the final whistle blew that day, Leslie Deegan scored a winning point. And it was as if that day, I felt particularly, we're going to win the All-Ireland this year. This is it for us, you know. And it just seemed, hindsight's a wonderful thing. And looking back, it's a very, very special period, certainly in my life, and the friends and the fellas, and, you know, meeting again this evening, all the lads that we haven't met for years, it's still the same, nothing changes. The characters are still the characters, the serious guys are still the serious guys, and John McCarthy's still John McCarthy.
And they don't look any older.
No,
not really. Well, you talked there about things like discipline and physical fitness and so on, and skills, no doubt, of course, are part of it too. But you all seem to be a fairly intelligent bunch of fellas. Had that something to do with it, Gay, as well?
Of course we did.
No, I'm being serious now about this. I'm being serious about this.
Well, I don't know, I suppose, well, certainly from my point of view, just speaking personally, I think that subsequently in my business life and so on, I applied a lot of what I learned during those years to the disciplines and what it actually takes to win. And you learn as much from losing as you do from winning.
Well, what does it take to win?
The discipline and the amount of effort that goes into setting targets, setting goals, and what you have to do, and writing your plans, if you like, which in the football sense was more or less written for us. But the commitment and the camaraderie, the commitment to each other and the commitment to yourself to say that, you know, again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but to look back and to say, or if you were to look forward and to say, for the next 6 years, I'm going to commit totally to a bunch of guys in Parnell Park, come hail, rain or snow, and playing matches and so on. I mean, if you don't learn from that, I mean, you'd want to be a very, very thick. You know?
And Paddy, what does that sort of commitment mean in terms of time and in terms of family life and so on? I mean, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of being away from home and so on.
Yeah, it's funny. It's only when you look back on it that arises, because at the time you were on a sort of a merry-go-round, and you know, thanks to Kevin Heffernan, we were on that merry-go-round. He put us on it, and we couldn't get off it, and that's the way it was. He said, look, this is it, and this is the way it's going to be, and if you want to be part of this, you have to do it. And you know, births, marriages, deaths all went out the window. It was just, you get out to Parnell Park, and that's it.
And what about the poor wives and the girlfriends at this stage, Gay? I mean, how did they, wives, I mean, he's saying births and deaths went out the window. It's a terrible thing to say when it comes to family life.
Does the wives or the girlfriends?
Well, both. I thought you were going to be a good boy tonight. Behave yourself.
Yeah, again, obviously you have to have support from home. I mean, there were times when it became difficult for, obviously, for the people at home.
And you're sitting on the fence there. Let's go to the wives and find out. Let's go to Catherine O'Driscoll for starters. Catherine, what was it really like?
Rather lonely.
Now you see what she says, rather lonely. He was away a lot.
Yes, quite a lot.
Yeah.
But it was great fun.
Did you give out a lot?
No, not really.
What about what about what Paddy was saying there about births and deaths and weddings and all sorts of things?
Well, I had to wait for Gay to come back from a match to take me to hospital to have a baby.
Well, now, I think that woman deserves a round of applause, you men. Paddy, I want to ask you what your greatest memory is of that period, if you had to single out a particular match, and I don't mean Mr. Mike's goal, I don't mean that. We'll ignore that. What's the most abiding memory you have of that time when it comes to matches?
I suppose when we broke through in '74, really. My God, it seems a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I was very young. I started young. It was '74, I suppose, when we won the All Ireland. I mean, it was just something that you couldn't believe was going to happen.
Were you sorely disappointed then in '75?
Well, sorely would be a word I could use, all right.
Yeah.
But,
what happened there, Paddy? Was the Kerry team too young? Were you not expecting that? Was that it?
well, I suppose we weren't really. We were the team of the time then, and we probably... I don't think I went in with the wrong attitude, and I suppose everyone else could say they didn't, but we obviously, something was wrong with us, you know. We obviously went in thinking that we could take these young guys, you know. I mean, their average age was something like 22 or 3 or something like that. Yeah. So it was a shock, yeah.
And danger for Dublin there. The ball breaking loose on the wing. It's a goal! It's a goal by John Egan. A goal by John Egan. And there's the free being taken. Here's the ball coming down now. A ball dropped by Gay O'Driscoll. Across comes John Egan. Gets inside and takes his shot.
I think we were caught on the hop definitely in '75 because we had won in '74 and we hadn't been beaten. We came to '75 and Kerry came along with a very young team and it was a very wet day, I remember particularly. But there is no doubt they caught us on the hop that day, but we came back and got our revenge. Yeah.
You were talking earlier there about your business life. What sort of business are you in, Gay?
I'm in the office furniture and equipment.
And I noticed, actually, reading up about you, that it was just after the win in '74 that you actually left the company you were working with and you went out on your own. Was there a connection, do you think?
There's no doubt about that. I reckon that if ever I was going to do it, that was the time. And particularly when I played for Dublin, my first game for Dublin was in 1965. So I figured that maybe I wasn't going to get another chance, you know, and what happened afterwards was a bonus, there's no doubt. But it was certainly a major factor in me having a go on my own.
And now you're a very successful businessman. It went well for you. And the fellow beside you, of course, is rotten with money. Paddy. Paddy's rotten with money. Everybody, I want the whole country to know. I also want you to know that I'm very grateful indeed to you for coming along to the panel to chat to us this evening. Paddy Cullen and Gay O'Driscoll, ladies and gentlemen. All right then, the good old Leinster final in 1979, and a certain person called Jimmy Keaveney was sent off, and the Wolf Tones were heartbroken, and they wrote a song, because Dublin won even though they only had 14 men. So here they are now to sing 14 Men.
And there was 14 on, 14 was off. Jimmy on the sideline having a gawk. Half when the boys were working up a plan how to beat the Offaly lads without the extra man. On Hill 16 they never gave up hope without Jimmy Keaveney, the man they called the Pope. The last 3 minutes the Hill was going mad, but Offaly and the Hogan they were looking very sad. And there was 14 on, 14 was off. Jimmy on the sideline having a gawk. Half when the boys were working up a plan how to beat the Offaly lads without the extra man. And up the second half, all Dublin should be proud. They put it in the net twice to get the goal allowed. The Dubs may come and Dubs may go, but history was made 6 Leinsters in a row. And there was 14 on, 14 was off. Jimmy on the sideline having a go. Half when the boys were working up a plan how to beat the Offaly lads without the extra man. And then came the goals, they came from centre field. Brady fists a tall ball down to Pat O'Neill. Anton O'Toole's pass I never will forget. Bernard Bogie kicked a bomber, it landed in the net. And it was 14 on, was off, Jimmy on the sideline having a go. Effa and the boys were working up a plan how to beat the Offaly lads without the extra man. Oh, with them when we win, oh, with them when we lose. Roscommon and Kerry, watch out for Super Blues. We not be easy beaten and never will we yield, as long as there's a man to kick a ball upon the field. There was 14 on, 14 was off, Jimmy on the sideline having a go. Effa and the boys were working up a plan how to beat the Offaly lads without the extra man. And there was 14 on, 14 was off, Jimmy on the sideline having a go. Effa and the boys were working up a plan how to beat the Offaly lads without the extra man.
Okay, I'm here now with Robbie Kelleher, one of the country's brightest economists. But of course, I know you're not going to take that sort of compliment, because I noticed so far all the fellas not very good at taking compliments, but it's true. I want you to tell...
I won't argue, Jamie.
There you go. I want you to tell me how you started off. You did economics and maths and so on. Did you in UCD, Robbie?
I went to UCD, yeah, and I did economics and graduated in UCD in 1972, so...
And did you go to the ESRI after that?
I was in the SRI for a couple of years, and then I worked in the Central Bank for a few years, and been in the financial world in one form or another for the last 25 years, I suppose, now.
Yeah. Go on, tell us the rest.
I was in Irish Life for a while, and then in the early 80s, just about the time I was finishing playing for Dublin, we set up a consultancy firm, myself and a chap called Colin McCarthy, in conjunction with Davy Stockbrokers, and we ran the consultancy firm. That still exists. Colin runs it by and large right now, and I'm involved with Davy Stockbrokers now.
But you're involved with them in a big way, aren't you? And they are a big company.
I'm not so sure about that, to better ask them down there.
You're involved in research?
I'm involved in the research side, yeah. We're researching the equity side, the company side of the business, yeah.
You know how some of your teammates were saying earlier how the qualities that, like, such as determination and discipline and that sort of thing, which inevitably would have been part of your life when you were a footballer, have they, in your view, also crossed over into your working life, do you think?
I wouldn't want to over-philosophise about it, to be honest. I mean, I think some of the qualities that perhaps make you a good footballer, you know, and the discipline and training and so on that was instilled into you when you played football, I suppose you do carry them over into your work life, but I would not want to over-philosophise about it, to be honest.
4 All-Star awards. Isn't that it?
4 of them, yeah.
How now would you compare them with an All-Ireland medal?
Well, we always, I think, all of us agreed that we'd never swap an All-Ireland medal for an All-Star award. An All-Star award was nice to get on a personal basis, but it was very much the icing on the cake, and I think the individuals who got it on the team always regarded it as very much as an honour to the team as much as the individuals themselves. So it was nice to get them, and I don't want to be falsely modest about it. It was nice to get them, but it was very much the icing on the cake, and I wouldn't swap any of the All-Ireland medals for another one.
No. You're still involved in sport? Still involved in O'Connell's?
Still involved very much in the GA, yeah. Still involved in my own club, O'Connell's, and treasurer of my own club. Involved with the junior team. A couple of young fellas going up now are in a different club, so I'm involved with them as well.
And am I right in thinking, Robbie, that you're the one that went off and got married just a week before a very important game?
That's right. Well, Heffa was gone then, you know.
You could do those things then, could you?
You could do those sort of things then. When Heffa was there, you couldn't do those sort of things. But Hannah was in charge at that stage. We were more lenient, so
oh dear.
Often do that.
Just as well he's not with us tonight. You might get clobbered for that. Bernard, what about you? You had a lot of injuries, hadn't you? Knees in particular.
Down through the years, yeah, I've had a lot of injuries. When I started in 74, the first game I played with Dublin was against Kerry, John O'Keefe, and I twisted my left knee. I didn't play again until, I think it was against Offaly in the quarter-final. I twisted my right knee, and I didn't play again until 75. So ever since then I've had problems with my knees. But I've had a number of other injuries. I had a finger in my eye, which there's a little story to tell about it. I had brought a new car. My wife didn't drive. We were playing a championship match, and during the match a fella put his finger in my eye. Now I played on, I bandaged myself up, and we kept going. And after the match I says, we have a problem here, I see 2 of everything. And on the way home, I said we'd go home. Leah said, no, we'd go into town and go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital, and when we got there, I had a detached retina. Not a detached retina, but a suspected detached. So I was kept in. Now the problem was I had a new car, Maria didn't drive, and she was in town. So the good thing that came out of it was she drove the car home. And ever since then, she's driving.
She can drive.
Yeah.
You were also a great athlete, weren't you? Despite all those injuries.
I was athletic, you know. To say I was a great athlete, I think I was athletic, and I was good at a lot of things. Not great at a lot of things, but good.
The Superstars event in the Bahamas, now, you competed in that?
I did, yeah. I competed in 1979, 1980 in the Bahamas. And I competed 4 times in the Irish Superstars. And I won it the first year, I was second twice. And the last time I competed for the sport.
Is that so? What exactly does it involve? What does the event involve? It's a lot of different sports, isn't it?
Superstars, there were 10 events and you had to pick 7. So it really suited people who were, you know, athletic but weren't great at any sport. So the benefit of it was that there was a lot of people that were good at one sport, but they were picked because they were good at a particular sport. But I competed against Stephen Roach, for instance. Now, Stephen was a great cyclist, but he wasn't a great runner. I competed against Brian McGuigan, a great boxer, but he was so small, he wasn't generally a great athlete. And loads of athletes, like Derek Daly was a motor driver, but he wasn't a runner. So when you looked at the people that were competing against me, across the athletic spectrum, they hadn't got the general level of fitness that I had.
And how did you do overall in world terms, in international terms?
In world terms, I finished 6th in the Bahamas. Now,
Well, that's all right. That's 6th in the world, isn't it? Better than a lot of fellas in this hall tonight, I can tell you. I wouldn't complain about that, no. Well, Jimmy, have you the weight back on? No.
No, I'm not doing too bad.
No. we have a bit of film.
No.
Jimmy,
Yeah.
we have a bit of film of you. Would you like to see yourself? Ah, you would, little
Is it
darling.
in black
Here
and
we
white?
go. No. There he is.
David Hickey for Dublin. Out along the wing. It's a Dubliner everywhere. This time it's further flow. And now it's Ryan Mullins, and now it's Jimmy Keaveney. And another goal! Another goal for Jimmy Keaveney. Backing that one home. 2 goals and 3 points he scored.
Well, now, Jimmy, when Hefo took you back on, you had to shift the weight, wasn't that it? You really had to get fit again. Was that a big problem?
It was, Bibi, because I hated training. I detested training.
Were you lazy?
No, I don't think I was lazy, because in fairness, I think over the years I was there, I'd say the amount of training sessions I missed, you could count it on one hand. No, but I didn't like training, but I knew with the commitment that the lads had given, and like Kevin and Donald Larkin had given, that unless I was prepared to pull it in, I could have forgot about it. So I decided to row in with them.
Yeah.
I was delighted.
Is it true that Hefo used to follow you into the pub and so on?
No, well, I think what Kevin did at the start, on a Friday night in our own club, St. Vincent's, I was used to go down there for a couple of points, no game of cards. So Kevin introduced this new Saturday morning training, which was totally new to me. But I went back anyway training with the lads, but I still go to Vincent's on a Friday night. So the odd occasion he dropped up and he long finger out, home. So...
And did you do it?
I did, yes.
Now, will you see?
After about 2 or 3 Fridays, I realised that Kevin was serious. But the funny thing about it, he still kept going down, but they were telling me I was gone down to Mars.
Well, I think we'll go for a song at this stage, Jimmy. We're going to go for a song from Paddy Riley, who's another great fan of this particular team. The Claremont Hotel in Coolock, no longer with us, but Paddy certainly remembers it, and so do lots of the lads. Paddy also, of course, travelled with him to San Francisco and to several important matches all around the country. He's going to sing the Rare Old Times.
Songs and stories, heroes of renown, the passing tales and glories that once was Dublin town. The hallowed halls and houses, the haunting children's rhymes, that once was Dublin city and the rare old times. Ring a rosy, as the light declines, I'll remember Dublin city in the rare old times. Oh, my name is Sean Dempsey, as Dublin as can be, born hard and late in Pimlico, in a house that ceased to be. By trade I was a cooper, lost out to redundancy, like my house that fell to progress, my trade's a memory. Ring-a-ring-a-rosy, as the light declines, I'll remember Dublin city in the rare old times. All the years have made me bitter, the gargles dimmed my brain, for Dublin keeps on changing. Nothing seems the same. The Pillar and the Met have gone, the Royal long since pulled down, while the grey unyielding concrete makes a city of my town. Ring-a-ring-a-rosy, as the light declines, I'll remember Dublin city in the rare old times. So fare thee well, sweet Anna Liffey, I can no longer stay to watch the new glass cages that spring up along the quay. My mind's too full of memories, too old to hear new chimes. I'm a part of what was Dublin in the rare old time. Sing it. Ring-a-ring-a-rosy, as the light declines, I'll remember Dublin city in the rare old time.
Jigs and a lovely Swiss dance there from the Carges group. Now, please welcome my next guests, Jimmy Gray and Kevin Heffernan. Jimmy, I want to ask you first of all, why, way back then, you were chairman of the county board and so on, why did you choose Kevin Heffernan as the trainer, selector, manager and so on?
I often ask myself that question since Bibi, but I'd known Kevin for many years, and I knew the way he thought about football and generally his organisation and his approach to it. So I had absolutely no doubts in my mind he was the one.
There was a 5-man selection committee in operation up until that point, and then you changed all of that.
You're very well informed, Bibi. Yeah, that's the old traditional way. In the GA years ago, what actually happened where 5 people were nominated and were actually elected, and I never thought that was basically the right way of doing it, because there was absolutely no guarantee that you would get the right person to manage a team and run a team, and I thought 5 were too many. So that was basically, it was agreed upon to change to 3, and I was given the privilege of picking the 3. So I picked him, Larkin and Donald.
Yeah, who are with us tonight too. Larkin and Donald, we're delighted to see you. Kevin, I want to ask you about the team when you took them over. I mean, they were pretty hopeless, and morale was low, no doubt, and so on.
That's something of an understatement, I think. They were the grottiest lot anybody could inherit. Actually, there was so little thought of us at the time. Gay O'Driscoll described it well one time recently. He said it was a period when you didn't tell people you played for Dublin. It was a bit embarrassing. But there were often as many seagulls in Croke Park as there were supporters. We went to Kilkenny one particular day, and as everybody knows, there's very little interest in football in Kilkenny. But we arrived down to play this league match with them, and lo and behold, outside there were hundreds and hundreds of cars. And we said, God, we must be very popular down here, or else football is caught on. So we got inside, and here was a minor hurling match just about to start at 10 minutes to 2, and we were due on at 2:30. And Paddy Grace was the secretary of the Kilkenny County Board, and I said to him, Paddy, like, when are we going to play? And his answer was, you can have the points if you want them. And having said that, they got on with the minor match. And the 6,000 or 7,000 people who were at the minor hurling match, as soon as it finished, they got up and they went home, and they left about 20 people in the stadium in Kilkenny. And that was how popular we were. One of them was the scoreboard man, and he was so cold at half-time, he got up and went home too.
Well, you certainly went a long way after that.
Well, just around that time, Paddy Cullen was the first one of the bunch who went to the States with the All-Stars. He was a replacement for somebody who didn't travel. And he came back, and he was absolutely amazed that geographically, the parameters of the GA stretched beyond Ringsend and Balbriggan and Howth and East Wall. Yeah? And he started to generate an interest in the better things, and the better aspects, and the opportunities that came from being successful. And that was one of the factors that was present in the early years.
And your two lieutenants, Lorcan and Donald, of course, what specific roles did they have, incidentally?
Well, they were all things to all men. Lorcan knew everything about everybody. He was guide, counsellor, masseur, confident friend of everybody. He knew everything about everybody, and he knew exactly when people were coming to the limit of training, when they should be rested, when they should have a bit more. He was absolutely superb in knowing that. Donald understood football better than anybody I know. He could see things long before they would happen to people, to players. And he was extremely competent. A strange thing about the relationship between the three of us, we never ever voted on a player for a team. We arrived at a consensus through talking and talking and talking, oftentimes for hours. But we never actually had to vote on a player.
Jimmy, the success of the team brought about really a whole cultural change in Dublin, really, didn't it?
It did, actually. I think it was very important at that time, too, particularly for people from Dublin. I think my recollection of it, that Dublin was a pretty sad place at the time, and dull. And basically because there wasn't any kind of focal point of interest for the people. And then this crowd burst on the scene. And I don't know whether you've seen shots of the hill and the flags of the hill. I mean, that was incredible in those days. And I mean, when the poor people on the hill got a rough time of it at times then from the media, who thought there were all sorts of things. But they were the salt of the earth, those people. And eventually the difficulties that were on the hill were sorted out by those people themselves.
Yeah. And you sent loads of Dublin people quite mad, including, I think, Terry Cooney there in the audience, now a tax consultant and terribly respectable, obviously.
Very important
the
man,
poor
yes.
man, Terry, you moved your whole family from Cork to Dublin because of this team, more or less, didn't you?
Well, that's the story I tell to these guys when I'm trying to persuade them to give me tickets for a match. I mean, how could a guy who did such a profound change to support the team, how could a guy like that be denied tickets? So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, it's a very good story indeed, and I'm sure you're not the only one. It's a measure, too, of the enthusiasm, I think, that the team generated, Jimmy.
It was incredible. I mean, you only had to go around the country to matches and see the crowds go. And they normally went on Friday. They didn't go on Sunday morning. Most of them went on Friday or Saturday and took over the town for that weekend.
Surely. I
remember one day we played a match down in Roscommon. I was telling Kevin about it earlier, just he didn't remember it. I had to remind him about it. But it was a match which wasn't of any consequence to Dublin. And we had already qualified for the concluding stages of the league. And actually Roscommon beat us, but Kevin left off a good few of the main players, including Jimmy Keaveney. And there was two guys, there's kind of a wire fence at the back of us, and these two guys came down who obviously had contributed enormously to the economy of Roscommon Town that weekend. And one fella said to the other, he said, is Keaveney not playing? And I don't know, it was Don or Larkin said, oh, he's been rested today. Jeez, he said, it's like Hamlet without the prince.
Kevin, the first time you retired, why did you make that decision then?
I was fed up with them. I was tired.
Were you?
I was tired, yeah.
And why did you decide to come back?
Because I thought they needed me. I could say that because I'm at this distance from them.
Yeah. Jimmy Gray and Kevin Heffernan, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, one player who can't be with us tonight is Kevin Moran, but of course we saw him in action last June, and for that reason we have chosen, just to help us relive those memories again, a particular song called The Game, which is going to be sung by the Memories for us just now. Well, here with Dr. David Hickey. David, what exactly do you do for a living these days?
Well, I'm a transplant surgeon in Bowen Hospital, maybe kidney transplantation.
Are you still playing sport?
No.
No. Too old?
Too old, yeah.
How do you feel about that? Is it difficult to retire and give it all up?
Well, I never retired. I mean, they just stopped calling me down. And John O'Shea can back me up on that. I never got an announcement or anything. I'm still available.
Well, maybe after the show there'll be a few takers. Yeah. But is it hard to give it up?
You do, yeah. I mean, you certainly do miss it. And I mean, it's tremendous to meet all the fellas here again tonight, because we don't get together often enough. It was, you know, the football was very good, but it was the social side of it as well. Just the group of friends we had through the 10 or 12 years we were together. It was more than 6 years. I mean, we were all together from '69 really up to 1980. And giving that up and the old training, even though Jimmy didn't like it, and mind you, he turned up for all the training sessions. He never finished one.
It's very unfair, Dave.
And Larkin
you never
Brendan
backed me over
can back me
100
up
yards in your life.
After football, what did you start to play then?
Well, I went to France for a few years then, and it was South France. I was in Bordeaux, so I played for a rugby team in La Rochelle.
What class of a rugby team, David? We want to know how good you were.
Well, I was over the hill at this stage, maybe. So I mean, I played First Division French club rugby.
Did you? Yeah. And you married a woman from Kerry.
I did.
You were a brave man.
Trish, yes.
Yeah. And she's a plastic surgeon.
That's
is that
right. Yeah. She's here, so she's
here
right behind me.
Good.
Behind John O'Shea.
Behind John O'Shea. So we'll make no comment about that. Brian Mullins is Muncher le Gaeilge hún na leithe seán nach cha?
Nishigs Rish.
Nishigs Rish. Ach ní bháin Gaeilge, ní Gaeilge bháin múnin tú sílim.
Corporadak has come out.
And where do you teach it?
In Greenair Community School in Kilbarrack.
Yeah.
North Dublin. I've been there since '76.
76.
I was the baby of this outfit, you know.
You were the baby, weren't you?
Yes.
How did it feel being the baby?
Well, they were hard enough on me, you know. They gave me a rough enough time.
I don't believe that part. Sorry, that's the one I don't believe. No.
That's why I have so many. Or I look so old, you know.
You don't look old at all, dear. Not in the slightest.
Well, you know, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I'll talk to you later, all right? We'll have a little chat about that later. Were you, Brian, being the youngest of the team, were you full of dreams at that stage?
I was, yeah, and I was very, very lucky that, you know, virtually all my dreams came true. Prior to 1974, I was 18 in 1974, and I mean, less than a year before that, I would have been kicking the ball in the street and dreaming that I was Mick O'Connell or that I was somebody else and that I was scoring a goal in an All-Ireland, and every one of my dreams came true 100-fold, so I would regard myself as being immensely fortunate that out of all the youngsters in Dublin that would have been dreaming those dreams, that I was fortunate enough to have them come true. You know? So.
What about this MA in Athletics Administration that you did? What is that? You still don't know. You must have done it in America.
Sounds very good then, doesn't it?
Sounds fabulous. I'm most impressed.
Well, I was very keen to further my education, and I reckon that America was the best place to go in my field. So I went there in 1980. And I had reservations about going in relation to having to give up football and give up the Dublin team, as they were. But just at that time, the Lord himself designed that I hit a lamppost and I get out of action, so it all came together well, you know.
Right.
So I went away for 2 years and tried to better myself.
It was a pretty nasty car crash.
Well, from what I can remember of it, it was bad enough.
But didn't you win an All-Ireland medal after that, sure?
In 1983, I again was fortunate enough to be under the stewardship of Kevin and to come back into a totally new scene with where I was, as opposed to the previous years being the gossoon of the outfit.
Sure.
I was then the supposedly wise old head, you know.
Oh, I was going to say the granddaddy, sorry. Brian, thank you very much. Beside you we have a gentleman too who has a strange degree, Dr. Pat O'Neill, in sports medicine. What exactly is that?
Well, it's medicine as applied to sport. There's two big areas of it, I suppose, the management of sports injuries and the physical assessment, what's known as exercise physiology. So they're the two big parameters of it. Yeah. I tend to specialise in the sports injury side of it.
And have you set up some sort of consultancy or something now in Dublin?
I have, yeah. I have a consultancy clinic here at the Charlemagne Clinic in Dublin.
Yes. The only one in the country?
No, there are a number of primary care sports medicine clinics, but mine would be a second level or tertiary level clinic.
Yeah. You were sort of a hard man on the field, weren't you, Pat?
Well, you know, you say give a dog a bad name, you know, we can't get rid of it.
Well, you see, I often wonder with you sports guys, when you're talking about hard, do you really mean dirty? I don't know. But no, not in your case.
You know, it wasn't a parlour game, but, you know, as the lads used to say, you know, I was always fairly fair to them, you know, and that break them up on Sunday and fix them up on Monday.
That's very fair indeed. Very fair. Well, there's another doc sitting beside you, Sean Doherty, the doc. Not a real doctor, I don't think.
No, no.
Almost just. You once said, I think, to somebody, Sean, that you had 3 great hopes in life, 3 great ambitions. Do you remember that? You wanted to win in All-Ireland, that was one of them. What was the other one?
Oh, a trip to the States.
That's right, and
probably to make $1 million.
Well, did you do all 3?
I got a couple of trips to the States and won a couple of All-Ireland, but the $1 million has eluded me.
Nothing to it. But you have a big, isn't it a plumbing company you have?
I have a plumbing company.
A couple of
yes.
them, actually.
Well, I have a plumbing company and I have a pub.
A pub?
Those two keep me busy now.
And keep your pockets nicely lined, I hope.
Yes, yes.
Well done. Well, you're an honest man. You're an honest man. I want to go now to a journalist who's with us tonight, John O'Shea. You've written so much about this team over the years, and I've read your book about them. I'm sure there's something you want to say to them or about them, but keep it clean.
Well, I'm surrounded by them. I have to be very careful, Bibi. For a start, they were a phenomenon, if only for the fact that they attracted so many people and created such an interest. But they were a marvellous team, and you can attribute that to a number of factors. You had off the field the astuteness of Kevin Heffernan, but on it you had speed of both mind and foot. You had strength, you had fielding ability, you had the fact that they mastered the short, quick pass, and they were exceedingly committed and dedicated. But I'm convinced that they wouldn't have succeeded. They wouldn't have won any All-Ireland but for 2 men. And they're the 2 in front of me here, Jimmy Keaveney and Brian Mullins. Because in Mullins' case, you had a midfielder who not alone was doing his primary duty, getting possession, but he was helping out his defence when it was needed. He was creating and scoring goals up the far end when things weren't going so well. Now, the Dublin forward line wasn't the most accurate forward line that Gaelic games has seen. I think even the lads might, later on tonight over a few pints, admit to that. So they decided that the best way of winning a match was to run hard at a defence and cause the defence to foul. They knew in Jimmy they had a man who would exact the punishment, and he did that to perfection. So without these 2, I don't think they'd be celebrating quite as much as they had
Well, John, we've given you the last word, and I dare say that if you're inaccurate, they will all bring you to task collectively in the pub afterwards. Well, thanks a million for being with us, John. Our thanks especially, of course, to the Dubs. Ladies and gentlemen, the Dubs.
With the chance of the quarter-finals, defeat could leave them